What if adopting Max the Labrador for Colin turned out to be a shocking mistake, plunging their lives into a nightmarish abyss of horror and suspense? When Colin was only 1 year old, a bad accident made him paralyzed and gave him little hope to walk. His mother broke down in tears when she saw what this dog did for him. Colin, a cute and healthy 1-year-old baby, brought his single mother a lot of happiness. Caroline, in their little world, every moment spent together was a gift. But soon, the worst accident would happen to their happy little family, and it would change their lives forever. One morning, while Caroline was busy making breakfast, she let Colin play in the living room so she could keep an eye on him. Everything was going well until the busy mom went outside for a second to take out the trash. Nothing should have gone wrong, but when she came back, she found complete chaos. When she walked into the room, she saw Colin lying on the floor, having climbed one of the high couches. Caroline quickly cradled him in her arms and sang an apology, but he kept crying. As a mother, she felt something different in his cries, an intuition that whispered a deeper concern, but she brushed it off as just stress. She focused on comforting Colin, not realizing that the fall was much worse than she thought. She gave him painkillers and worked hard to comfort him, but he kept crying. That's when Caroline was crying, but she knew this wasn't the time to sit and cry. She had to do something. Fighting her panic, she sped out of the house with her child in her arms and to the hospital. There, the doctor carefully examined Colin, and Caroline's heart sank with each passing minute. When the diagnosis was finally given, it was a harsh reality. Cole's vertebrae had crushed some nerves in his body during the fall, leaving him paralyzed on the left side. The doctors couldn't tell Caroline if her son would ever regain strength and mobility in that side of his body. The news hit Caroline like a storm, and she started crying. Colin looked at his mother, unaware of what was going on with him. Caroline was devastated, but she refused to give up. With newfound strength, she took on the role of a strong mother. The road to recovery would be long, full of therapy sessions, medical appointments, and emotional turmoil, but she was sure that they could do it together, even though they would have to go through many days of hard therapy and treatment. Colin remained unresponsive to the medical interventions. He was still a happy and lovely boy, but he was paralyzed nonetheless. The routine of therapy sessions, doctor visits, and the desperate hope for improvement seemed futile, and the weight of helplessness bore heavily on Caroline's shoulders. The painful truth ate away at her soul. She missed the times when Colin, so full of energy and joy, would dash up to her excited to share his toys in those little moments that made motherhood a delight. But now, it looked like her precious boy would never walk again, let alone run. Caroline couldn't shake the persistent guilt that she should have been there to prevent the accident. The burden of responsibility weighed on her, and she blamed herself for not safeguarding Colin. That fateful day at work, Esther, one of Caroline's colleagues, couldn't ignore the persistent sadness in her friend's demeanor. Concerned, she reached out to her, gently prodding, until Caroline reluctantly opened up about Colin's situation and the emotional toll it had taken on her. As she poured out her heart, Esther listened with compassion until a possible solution came to mind. She was an animal lover and knew that pets could be very helpful to their owners, so she suggested that Colin get an emotional support animal. She suggested a Labrador because she had great experiences with them and knew many other people who did too. Caroline wasn't used to having pets in the house and was very hesitant, but Esther emphasized the possible benefits and convinced her. She talked about how a lively pet could bring joy and company, especially to a child who loved to play and explore but had trouble moving around. Caroline thought about the idea, weighing her fears against the possible benefits. She remembered how determined she was to do anything to help her son, and as her resolve grew, she chose to take a chance. After all, Colin wasn't responding well to traditional therapies and treatments, and she was determined to try everything. Caroline promised to go to an animal shelter the next day to try to find Colin a pet dog that would make his life better, even though she had never had a dog before. Caroline spent the night doing a lot of research. She learned about all the different parts of dog care, including what they should eat and how they behave in general. As she read heartwarming stories from other dog owners, her fear turned into hope. The stories painted a picture of loving and caring dogs, which made her fully embrace the idea of getting a dog for her son. The next morning, Caroline took a big step forward in her search. Caroline finished the process and eagerly awaited Max to arrive at her house. Soon enough, Max the Labrador was delivered to her door. When she saw him for the first time, she was surprised to feel an instant connection with an animal. What surprised her even more was the immediate bond that formed between Max and Colin. It was as if the dog could sense what the young boy needed and responded by keeping his eyes on Colin, establishing a connection. Seeing this wonderful event, Caroline felt a wave of grief. Max hadn't just moved in, he was like a family member. Caroline felt filled with hope and gratitude when she saw the Labrador's undivided attention on her son. The bond between Max and Colin seemed to hold the promise of a better future and emotional support that words could not describe. As Max became more settled in their home, Caroline saw the profound effect he had on her son. Max was always by Colin's side, comforting and entertaining him. The Labrador's gentle personality and natural ability to understand what the boy needed created an atmosphere of positivity and support. Max's loving actions, like licking Colin and staying close to him, brought happiness and comfort to both mother and son. Max was more than just a pet, he exceeded Caroline's expectations with his brilliance. The Labrador developed an amazing ability to sense when Colin was in pain and barked to let Caroline know. His playful nature brought joy to the household, responding to Colin's laughter and antics with happy barks. Life at home became more relaxed, and Caroline found herself enjoying the unanticipated ease that Max brought to their daily routines. Any worries she had at first about having a dog in the house turned into thanks for the happiness and safety Max brought into their lives. Caroline could see that Colin was getting better over time, and it was clear that Max had a lot to do with it. Whenever they played, Max would gently push Colin to stand up and move around the house. Even though Colin had some physical problems, he was determined to pet the dog and play with him. Max's constant support pushed him past his limits, which led to a big breakthrough. Colin slowly lifted his left arm to pet his dog friend one day while they were playing together. Caroline was so happy to see her son move his left arm that she cried as she hugged and kissed him to celebrate the important emotional moment. This touching moment showed progress and strength, showcasing the strong love and special bond between a boy and his dog. But that wasn't the only miracle that happened for this small family. In the days that followed, something truly amazing happened. Caroline couldn't believe how much Colin was improving. One day, she walked into their room and saw her son leaning on Max for support as they moved around the room. Colin's recovery was faster than she had ever thought possible. Colin had not only moved his left hand again, but he was also able to stand up and move his left leg. Colin's progress kept going at an amazing rate. His relationship with Max became a driving force for recovery, and over time he returned his strength and went from having limited mobility to being fully recovered. The once dangerous situation seemed like a long time ago memory. In its place was the happy sight of a boy playing and discovering the world with his loyal dog. Caroline was amazed and thrilled by the strength of the link between a person and a pet. She was also amazed at how resilient they had found it, even though therapy and medical treatments had failed. She was desperate for her dreams to be realized. Caroline took her kid to the hospital for more tests. There were doctors amazed by the progress. It was proven that Colin was now fully recovered and no longer had partial paralysis. When word got around the hospital about the strange bond between a child and his pet, both doctors and staff were shocked. The strong bond between Max and Colin became a topic of talk, and the mother's hopes and dreams for her son took a positive turn. Caroline was interested in Max's background and decided to learn more about it. Max's well-trained demeanor and unique ability to sense distress and form bonds easily interested her, but little did she know that her quest would lead to something much bigger. Max wasn't just a normal pet, he was a therapy dog with experience helping kids with physical disabilities. His specially trained set of skills, which he had learned in professional training, showed how he was able to sense Colin's distress and give him the help he needed to get better. Caroline was shocked by this revelation and understood that Max's training as a therapy dog was the missing piece of the puzzle. Max was up for adoption after his previous owner, who had adopted him when her baby was born, tragically died in a car accident. Max was very close to his late owner and her child, and he couldn't hold back his tears even at their funeral. The staff at the animal shelter told Caroline that Max hadn't been acting like himself since then, not acting like the normally happy dog in the kennel. They were worried about Maud. Caroline learned that when she called the animal shelter to find a companion and emotional support pet for her sick son, the staff immediately saw Max as the perfect fit because he had lost his previous owner and friend who was about the same age as Colin. They thought that meeting Colin would bring Max joy and let him show his love for his late friend to another boy who needed him. Caroline cried when she learned about Max's difficult past. Max had become a beloved family member, and his touching story was told all over the city. It made people who had wrong ideas about pets change their minds, realizing that dogs are man's best friend.